Speedrunners is an indie game created by the developers over there at Deluxe Games and published through tinyBuild. I got the PlayStation 4 version, so let's get into it. Speedrunners look like an interactive comic book brought to life in HD. Each of the characters are cartoonish and charismatic as if they come from unpopular heroes and villains from comic books during the 1930s to 1960s. As a matter of fact, this game has comic books within the game, giving the player just a taste of backstory after completing the storyline portion. Every stage fits the name of them individually, and the animation being so fluid, even during the moments when characters pick up speed with all hell breaking loose, this game still shows no slowdowns, drops in frames, or glitches. The backgrounds are nicely done, colorful, and in some stages always has something going on. This game is easy on the eyes and has a character all of his own. Speedrunners is about a guy known as the Speedrunner who apparently reminds me of the character of the Flash family, or as if he's another version from a different universe that got a hold of the Speed Force somehow.
I am the law. I am the night. I am
Nova Sprint Flamingo.
Anyway, he comes across interesting people like space travelers and people who dress like chickens and sharks and funny looking creatures who just want to beat him in a race. Why? I don't know, plot reasons? You don't play this game for the story obviously, you play it for the gameplay and to have fun. The sound design of Speedrunners was well done. Hearing grappling hooks and people exploding sounds nice and satisfying. There is this one sound though that when a person is eliminated that faintly sounds like either Mario from Mario 64 yelling, or somebody screaming in agony. But my favorite sound is hearing that Transformers-like sound revving up at the start of each round. Overall, the sound design for Speedrunners sounds fantastic. The music of Speedrunners was done by Sonic Picnic, which is a group of music composers that has done music and sound design for other games and medias. I will leave a link to their website where you can find this game's OST in the description. Now, how is the music of Speedrunners? I can only describe it as bombastic, loud, and befitting for a classic superhero comic book design. On almost all the songs you will hear the loud blaring horns across an up-tempo beat where the grooves never show any sign of slowing down. Then again, why would it with a game called Speedrunners? Anyway, all composition sounds like it was constructed utilizing live instrumentation and a high level of quality in the mixing and mastering area. The original soundtrack of Speedrunners has 9 tracks with most of them having 2 parts. This is because during the gameplay a normal version of a song plays, but when somebody is eliminated and things intensifies during the gameplay, a more aggressive version seamlessly transitions in, giving a more urgent feel to it. Speedrunners will be considered a cross between a racing and a platforming type of game. The main objective is to beat the rest of the competitors by killing them off while remaining first. How you do this is of course by being the fastest and maneuvering through the various stages. The player has a couple of things granted to them to help them achieve their victory, such as the ability to boost their speed, double jump, a grappling hook to swing from platforms that have this white shading to it, and the option to utilize a multitude of weapons after picking them up. Obtaining weapons kind of provides Speedrunners the type of wacky and chaotic fun similar to what you will find in Super Mario Kart. There are also weapons like bombs, crates, with my personal favorite being the hook that can pull back anyone who's in front of you so you can pass them.
Get over here!
Not to mention all sorts of other weapons as well. Now the enemies is one thing to be aware of, but you also have to adjust and learn the levels if you want to have better chances at winning. Each stage is like an obstacle course that everybody would do laps around. Just like in racing games, the more familiar the player is with that course, the more dominant advantage the player will have. Every character is essentially going to be going in the same direction. But how the player chooses to proceed is pretty much up to them. Examples are picking either the higher ground or the lower levels to take, determining if dropping and allowing gravity to do its thing, or should one try swinging to utilize momentum that will make your character move faster. I mean, you got your options. After the first player perishes is usually when things get a tad bit more serious. To be eliminated is simply done by allowing your character to fall behind. As the player progresses through the levels and the more people get eliminated, the more the borders on the screen will over time grow more and more, limited in the space that the player has. If the border is touched, the player is then eliminated. Whoever is the first to get 3 victories is deemed the winner. There are game modes to choose from when playing speedrunners at the title screen. You can do story mode where the player goes through a series of levels which introduces you to unlockable characters, majority if not all levels of speedrunners, and helps unlock weapons as well. When the player earns wins, this racks up ESP that is then put into this gauge at the end of every level. Once enough is accumulated, you earn new characters, weapons, and levels. Also, the player will be able to unlock rules which grants the power to set certain handicaps, such as what items can be used, and what can kill and be determined as a victor. If the player goes to the practice option, the player can choose the tutorial just in case you forget the basic controls. You also have the ability to do a free match on the level and against opponents of your choosing. Doing these can help rack up your ESP points as well. The player has the option to do somewhat of a time run, where each lap around the stage creates a ghost of yourself doing the best time. This is good to help your player become more familiar, proficient, and faster at getting around with each stage. Lastly, speedrunners has online multiplayer and offline, so you can play with others that are far away or close when you have company or someone physically sitting right next to you. But speaking of online, ranking matches are held against others, which can help build your reputation as being one of the fastest. But be warned, there are pros out there who studied this game in and out. With everything covered, it's time to put a rating on this game. I'm going to give speedrunners a 7.8 out of 10. The gameplay and controls are fluid and responsive, and also the awesome moments I had along when something hilarious happened were many. Overall, I had fun with speedrunners. What held this game back from scoring higher is realizing that in order to obtain more levels and items, the player must grind like how you would do in an RPG. And if you're not familiar with that terminology, it only means that you'll have to keep battling the same monsters in order to reach a higher enough level. Now, apply that same concept to this game when you have to replay the levels over and over again. This repetition led me to playing this game every once in a while instead of being burned out and bored of playing this. But this is just for the PS4 version. Meanwhile, the Steam version seemingly has everything, including exclusive materials such as characters and quite possibly more levels. If not a console version of this game, I recommend getting the Steam version any day. Hopefully all the content from the Steam version gets patched into the console versions one day, but I can only hope. But other than these criticisms, everything is alright with speedrunners. Speedrunners is now available on Steam for Mac and Windows alongside the PlayStation 4 for only $10. It's also on the Nintendo Switch and Xbox One for $15, and lastly available for Apple iOS so you can play it on your iPhone 6 and up, along with iPads. There are also downloadable content that you can purchase which comes in packs. The names are salem'ssprintsquad, forknight'sfastfaction, and mrquick'sspeedybunch. These DLCs comes with new characters and skins which are different color variations of the character's appearance. There is one more DLC, however, called the Trails Pack, in which you can add a nice cosmetic design to the effect of what you can leave behind when you're moving at a higher speed. These DLCs would probably run you at least like $3 each, so I would recommend getting the Speedrunners Deluxe so you can get the full experience, at least for consoles anyway. But other than that, stay safe out there and peace y'all.